So if you guessed this was going to be about putting separate pieces of blue foam together, then you were right. So let's talk about joining blue foam. You have to be careful when using some glues on blue foam, because some glues are going to eat away at the foam, essentially kind of melt it away. And that can happen with some spray glues. But some acceptable ways of joining blue foam together include using double-sided tape or using rubber cement. Some arts and crafts store might have it labeled as paper cement. They both work just fine. So let's go over the procedure for putting separate pieces of foam together with these two methods. One thing you want to pay attention to is that you're working in a well-ventilated area. And that way, any fumes from the glues in particular will not damage you. Okay, so if you want to take two pieces of blue foam and attach them with double-sided tape, it's pretty simple. One thing that you want to make sure, though, is that your surfaces are nice and clean. So if these pieces came from rough cutting, you want to make sure that there's no dust left on them. Usually, if you just cut them with a hot wire cutter, then they should be ready to go. You just want to make sure that they're clean. So the procedure is pretty simple. All you really have to do is take off a piece of double-sided tape. And if you want a nice firm attachment, then you could be pretty generous with the double-sided tape. And then you can just stick one half on there. And then you want to peel off this other coating. Sometimes it's a pain in the neck. Got lucky this time. It was pretty easy. So now all we have to do is stick your other piece of foam with another clean surface right on it. Press them together for a second or two. And then you've got a nice firm attachment. Okay, so now let's go over rubber cement. So a lot of these cans come with the brush inside. So all you really have to do is open it up. And then your brush is in there nice and ready. It's a pretty sticky substance. I'm actually not going to do this on the cutting mat because I don't want to get any glue on it. Let's go ahead and just move that out of the way. Okay, so here we go. So what we're going to do is a method called dry mounting. So dry mounting has the most permanence. So that means it's the stickiest bond that you can get with rubber cement. So what we're going to do is just get the brush and we're going to paint the rubber cement on the surface of the foam. So try to get a nice even coat. Somewhat generous without being too overwhelming, not too much glue. And then you're going to take your other surface that you want to attach to. Oh, not those guys. Well, let's take this one. And then you want to paint that with the rubber cement as well. There we go. Nice coat. Make sure I got enough on there. Okay, great. So in order to dry mount these, what you have to do is wait for the rubber cement to be dry to the touch on both of the surfaces. There are a few other methods to using rubber cement to join pieces of blue foam or paper or anything else for that matter. We're going over dry mounting. There's also wet mounting, which is basically you paint one side, so one surface, and then you stick your two pieces of foam together while that surface is still wet. That'll allow you to realign the foam and kind of move it around, but you sacrifice some permanence, so your bond will be less sticky and less rigid. You can also do what's called combination mounting, and what you do there is you paint one side with the rubber cement, and you let that side completely dry to the touch, and then you paint the second surface and you attach them while one surface is wet and one surface is dry. And then you get this kind of middle ground where you have a little bit of flexibility and repositioning, but you still don't have the rigidity of a dry mount. So these are not quite dry just yet. Getting pretty close. So I think what we'll probably do is a time warp into the future when they're dry. Okay, so these surfaces are dry now, and I can touch them, and they're nice and dry to the touch, just feel a little sticky. And so what we want to do now is go ahead and let them get pressed together. And that'll get all nice and sealed up. And you're left with another nice firm attachment. So those are two methods for joining pieces of blue foam together. One last method we didn't talk about is you can actually use dowel pins. And so you'll just force pins into each piece of foam and then press them together. You kind of have to be careful with that, because if you start moving the foam around, you can kind of start to deteriorate the holes around the dowel pins, and then they'll get looser and looser. So double-sided tape or rubber cement are definitely preferred methods to that.